ancient wisdom. Among these, the priests settled and remained. In the 10th century, the Mayas had thoroughly settled the Yucatan, and the tablets were placed beneath the altar of one of the great temples of the sun god. After the conquest of the Mayans by the Spaniards, the cities were abandoned and the treasures of the temples were forgotten. It should be understood that the Great Pyramid of Egypt has been and is still a temple of initiation into the mysteries. Jesus, Solomon, Apollonius, and others were initiated here. The writer, who has a connection with the Great White Lodge, also works through the Pyramid priesthood, was instructed to recover and return to the Great Pyramid the ancient tablets. This, after adventures which need not be detailed here, was accomplished. Before returning them, he was given permission to translate and retain a copy of the wisdom engraved on the tablets. This was done in 1925, and only now has permission been given for it to be, in part, published. It is expected that many will scoff, yet the true student will read between the lines and gain wisdom. If the light is in you, that's a very powerful statement. If the light is in you, the light which is engraved in these tablets will respond to you. Wow, I like the sound of that. Now, a word as to the material aspect of the tablets. They consist of 12 tablets of emerald green, formed from a substance created through alchemical transmutation. They are imperishable, resistant to all elements and substances, and in effect, the atomic and cellular structure is fixed, no change ever taking place. In this respect, they violate the material law of ionization. Upon them are engraved characters in the ancient Atlantean language, characters which respond to attuned thought waves, releasing the associated mental vibration in the mind of the reader. The tablets are fastened together with hoops of golden-colored alloy suspended from a rod of the same material. The wisdom contained therein is the foundation of the ancient mysteries. And for the one who reads with open eyes and open mind, his wisdom shall be increased 100-fold. Read, believe or not, but read. And the vibration found therein will awaken a response in your soul. In the following pages, I will reveal some of the mysteries which has as yet only been touched upon lightly either by myself or by other teachers or the students of truth. Man's search for understanding of the laws which regulate his life has been unending, yet always just beyond the veil which shields the higher plane from the material man's vision. The truth has exited, ready to be assimilated by those who enlarge their vision by turning inward or outward, not outward, in their search. In the silence of material senses lies the key to the unveiling of wisdom. He who talks does not know. He who knows does not talk. The highest knowledge is unutterable, for it exists as an entity in lanes which transcend all material words or symbols. All symbols are but keys to doors leading to truths, and many times the door is not open because the key seems so great that the things which are beyond it are not visible. If we can understand that all keys, all material symbols, are manifestations and are but extensions of a great law and truth, we will begin to develop the vision which will enable us to penetrate beyond the veil. All things in all universes move according to law, and the law which regulates the movement of the planets is no more immutable than the law which regulates the material expressions of man. One of the greatest of all cosmic laws is that which is responsible for the formation of man as a material being. The great aim of the mystery schools of all ages has been to reveal the workings of the law which connect man and the material and the spiritual. The connecting link between the material man and the spiritual man is the intellectual man, for the mind partakes of both the material and immaterial qualities. The aspirant for higher knowledge must develop the intellectual side of his nature and so strengthen his will that it is able to concentrate all powers of his being on and in the plane he desires. The great search for light, life, and love only begins on the material plane. Carried to its ultimate, its final goal is complete oneness with the universal consciousness. The foundation in the material is the first step. Then comes the higher goal of spiritual attainment. In the following pages, I will give an interpretation of the Emerald Tablets and their secret, hidden, esoteric meanings. Concealed in the words of Thoth are many meanings that do not appear on the surface. Light of knowledge brought to bear upon the tablets will open many new fields of thought. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your own consciousness awakens the deep-seated understanding, which is an inherent quality of the soul. Heavy stuff there. Yowza. So that's a preface of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. We'll get into tablet number 1 tomorrow on the show. And looking forward to getting into this. Ties in with what we read with William Bramley, Gods of Eden, Lost Book of Enki, now Thoth, and especially, moving towards the Rockwall information. This is This is key. I plan on reading as many of these types of things on the air for you as I can possibly get my hands on. And it should be interesting. Here we go. Tablet number 1, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I, Thoth, the Atlantean master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king magician, living from a generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after these records of the mighty wisdom of the great Atlantis. In the great city of Kior, on the island of Undal, in a time far past, I began this incarnation. Not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from aeon to aeon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light. As many times as I have ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power has been renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem is alchemy in ancient Egypt, and the men of Chem shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn I will rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of alchemy, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of caves from whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north or the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon you. Remember and heed my words, for surely I will return again and require of thee that which you guard. I, even from beyond time and from beyond death, I will return, rewarding or punishing ye as you have requited your trust. You sound familiar here? Jesus is coming back. He's going to come back. And if you ain't got your shit together, he's going to kill you. Sound familiar? Alien gods going around setting themselves up, telling everybody that they're, the all-powerful, getting them to worship them. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now around me. It means humans, by little people. Knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity, knowledge that belonged to earth's youth. Wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light who dwelt among us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. In all of these, greatest among the children of men was my father, Thought me, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light who dwelt within the temple and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands. Mouthpiece, after the 3 of the dweller of Unal, speaking to the kings with a voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from childhood into manhood, being taught by my father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame. Not desired I but the attainment of wisdom, until in a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few there were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived. For not as the sons of men are the children of light when they are not incarnate in a physical body. So when they're not in a physical body, they're just light beings. Sounds like Pleiadians. By the way, we were referencing that movie Knowing a couple of times in the broadcast. That's what comes down and is taking the kids to see life on another planet, Pleiadians. When they start showing up, it's really not good news for your planet. I've heard people saying they've been seeing Pleiadians, in their dreams of like, that's not good news. These guys only show up when a planet's about to be completely fucking destroyed. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dwellers, so that his purposes might be fulfilled. Purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ages I dwelt in the temple, learning ever and yet ever more wisdom, until I too approached the light emitted from the great fire. Taught me, he did, the path to Amenti, the underworld where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Free was I from the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed until space and time became as naught. So he's gaining immortality here. Transcending the death of the physical body. That's the real secret of the secret societies, Freemasonry and the rest of it. Is how to gain immortality by being conscious of how you reincarnate through the learning of these teachings. That's really what it's all about. And the Anunnaki talked about how they had, they did not give man the gift of long life, but they could. And we have that in us today. It's, all you have to do is turn on a chromosome. And boom, you've got immortality. Interesting, there was an article I didn't cover here tonight, synchronistically, yet again. It's just been synchronicity after synchronicity the past couple of weeks with everything. Article from the Daily Mail says, who wants to live forever? Computer models predict that if humans became immortal, it might actually be bad news. A lot of this has been in the news lately, and it seems that they're starting to figure this out. I think they're starting to figure out this key to immortality thing that the ancients knew. Because again, as I've stated many times, we now have a context for what these, the advanced technologies that these ancient texts were talking about. 50 years ago, we didn't. 100 years ago, we didn't. Then, having drunk deep into the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men, and there I found greater mysteries, and was glad. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled and the flame within be quenched. I'm going to get a tattoo of that. Yeah, that's pretty much my credo right there. Wow. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled and the flame within be quenched. Down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death and return again in the light of life. Gradually from the kingdoms of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by a spawn of a lower star. That's heavy. That's heavy. Let me read the... Man. Gradually from the kingdom of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by the spawn of a lower star. This is an interesting statement. That's like, one collective consciousness and everyone in a community or a planet or a world or whatever having the same consciousness, and then that going away and being replaced with something of much lower quality. That's incredible. In obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last, in this wrath arose from his great Agwanti, the dweller. This word has no English equivalent. It means a state of detachment. Speaking the word, calling the power. Deep in the earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard and are hearing and directing the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos, until that great fire changed its direction. Now, what are they talking about here? They're talking, deep in the heart of the earth. They're talking about the changing the core, the direction of the core, the way the core of the earth spins. That's interesting. Over the world then broke the great waters, drowning and sinking, changing earth's balance until only the temple of light was left. Standing on the great mountain of Indal, still rising out of the waters, some there were who were living, saved from the rush of the fountains. Called to me then the master, saying, gather ye my people. Take them by the arts ye have learned of far across the waters, until you reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in caves of the desert. Follow there the plan that you know of. I gathered my people and entered the great ship of the master. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters. Vanished from earth until the time appointed was the great temple. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning, until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem. Raging, they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Well, you got to watch that movie, 10,000 BC. If you hadn't seen that, it ties right in with that. Pretty interesting. I don't want to ruin it for you if you haven't seen it, but then I raised my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them in their tracks as fragments of the stone of the mountain. I love this. Because, what do you cleanse have to say about this now? Here's more translations from ancient texts. These not done by Zechariah Sitchin. And here we have the same stuff verbatim that's in Sumerian text. Break free of your religious priest class programming and understand that this stuff is what they don't want you to know about. If you understand this stuff, then religion has no place. So that's why there's so many disinfo clowns and haters and all that stuff out there. I then raised my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountain. Then I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying we were children of the sun and its messengers. I cowed them by my display of magic science, until at my feet they groveled and I released them. Long dwelt we in the land of Chem, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the Master, who while sleeping yet lives eternally, I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom they might rise again in her children. For a long time I dwelt in the land of Chem, doing great works by the wisdom within me. Upward I grew into the light of knowledge. The children of Chem were watered by the rains of my wisdom. Blasted I then a path to Amente, so that I might retain my powers, living from age to age as a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Chem, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upwards in soul force. Growing slowly upwards in soul force. That's interesting. As if their souls and their energy gets higher. You know, the vibration higher, the more that they conquer, and it gets higher and higher. Now for a time I go from among them into the dark halls of Amenti, deep into the halls of the earth, before the lands of the powers, face to face once again with the Dweller. That's funny. We have one of the new demigod songs we have called Earth Dweller. We always call it the Dweller for short, and I just have seen that twice.
Perhaps the most important of the Gospels that was left out of the New Testament. In order to kind of consider Thomas's place in history, I do want to do a little bit of historical context and talk a bit about the Jesus movement and early Christianities. So although the historical Jesus led a movement and had a significant number of disciples, he didn't actually found the Christian church. Christianity, or rather multiple Christianities, arose when the disciples of Jesus tried to decide for themselves what Jesus' execution meant. What had been the point of Jesus' life, his ministry, and death? Different early Christians came up with radically different answers. So as I say, the New Testament is actually made up of multiple texts. They weren't all designed to be together in one grouping the way they are today.
Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven.